Warning, this video has an incredibly hot take from an incredibly attractive man. Watch at your own risk.
Recency bias is a cognitive bias that favors recent events over historic ones. A memory bias, recency bias gives greater importance to the most recent event, such as the final lawyer's closing arguments a jury hears before being dismissed to deliberate. Hey there guys, it's me Ray Sean and I wrote this sick. Achoo! This video has gone through like 20 script rewrites. First I was gonna make a Five Nights at Freddy's video about security breach, but technical difficulties. Then I was gonna make a video about the live action Powerpuff Girls, but that one needs a little bit more time in the oven. So in the meanwhile, I wanted to get an easy layup, so I decided to watch Netflix's Cowboy Bebop. The show everybody has been saying is garbage and the biggest affront to mankind for the last few months. And I gotta say, I like it.
Brother, this guy stinks!
If you don't know, Cowboy Bebop is one of the most influential anime ever. The animation, gang, the characters, iconic, the music, bang. The show is pretty good. A lot of people will tell you this, but the show invented a genre. If not that, it definitely pioneered it. It's this slow, melancholic, highly atmospheric space romp with some pretty sweet moments, and legitimately, the show carried the 90s. So when Netflix announced they were making a live action adaptation of this beloved classic, the reactions, they weren't good. Yo, this remake was trash, okay? If you liked it, then the anime was a joke to you. It's like a parody of the original show. It's like a fan-made video of low-cost cosplay. It got cancelled because it was a woke piece of garbage. You killed the original. The casting is super bad. The music can't be heard. The humor is gone. Everything is bad with this iteration. You killed the best anime IP ever created. Those who love this have no knowledge about cinema or movies in general.
Jesus Christ.
Middle finger emoji. Based. They ruined a classic. Oh boy. Cowboy Bebop is about a group of bounty hunters going through space trying to survive in a futuristic society where humans have abandoned Earth and mostly migrated to space. It follows Spike Spiegel and his partners Jet Black, Faye Valentine, and Radical Edward as they go on missions trying to make money so they don't have to eat noodles and peppers and I don't know, tears or something. The action is usually fairly high octane, always being down to it's my life or yours. I mentioned earlier, but the animation in this show is phenomenal. It's complete and utter eye candy, coupled with the brash metallic sound design and empty void like humming on the bebop, makes this a set dressing marvel. It uses these subtle cues to tell its story. It's constantly using scenes to symbolize motivations, and that's one of the reasons it makes fans of the show swear by it so much. Netflix Bebop is pretty different. The show focuses on the same cast of characters under the same circumstances, minus Ed, essentially doing the same thing. The kicker is that the characters here are very different. The show aims for a more lighthearted comedic approach that presents the characters' motivations and arcs as the central driving force rather than a background element. And to do this, that requires certain workarounds to be achieved. I don't want to really spoil either of these shows because I'd honestly recommend them both for different reasons. But I'm going to try and dissect what makes both of these shows so different and why I think this version is special. What makes a visually appealing shot work in live action versus animation are very different things. In the OG series, they're constantly having these manic shots in this filmic atmosphere. The movement is so fluid, it's eye candy, and its being traditionally painted on cells only seeks to help them achieve the desaturated filmic look of a depressing future that the show was going for. When the director is in his bag, he's chilling there. I mean, like, look at this. What makes a scene visually appealing is up to the person consuming, but the way to go about it is very different between mediums. You can make something like this via animation because the entire point is that the world is lent to the creator's imagination. You don't have to worry about bad lighting or having a specific focal length to make sure that your scene doesn't look bad. When dealing with live action, the suspension of disbelief is immediately shorter than it would be otherwise. In an attempt to make the show its own entity while paying respects to the original, the visuals no longer follow the desaturated melancholic tone because the show no longer follows a melancholic tone. It's highly saturated. You'll notice when watching it get really unconventional with the camera work, it's always slightly tilted or tracking, but it's rarely a static horizontal frame. The costumes and designs are triple S tier and low-key the best in the field right now. Like, look at these niggas, bro. They use the same sunglasses to protect their eyes from light warping at high speeds. The attention to detail here is crazy. A big complaint when things started hitting the fan was with the tonal shift. Adapting a tragic story about a haunted man with a death wish and making it a space comedy with dramatic elements didn't go over well. But I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I like it. This show is dead funny, bro. The original had jokes, but that was never the point. But Rishan, a remake is supposed to be the same! I think I gotta explain. A remake is made with the intent of taking that same property you know and essentially retell the same story. A good, subjective, example of this is in the Disney live-action remakes. I use live-action loosely because every character in this movie is 3D animated, but the purpose isn't anything more than to tell the exact same story, with the difference being that it's now in live action. The point of a reboot is to revive a former property, usually with a new cast and crew. This isn't either of those things. It's an adaptation. The point is for it to be different. If you want a show that is 100% like the original, animated, voice acted, the whole joint, you can still watch the original. It's like when Mother effers be complaining about like Riverdale's existence. It's like, this is nothing like the Archie comic books. It's like, no duh. And even then, you're wrong, because comic books go through like reboots every freaking 6 weeks. Right now I could sneeze and all of a sudden Barry Allen would be fighting the Incredible Hulk, bro. Like there's no consistency in that medium. But I'm convinced a lot of people log on to social media just to complain, bro. Like did y'all niggas even try to have a good morning? Like some of y'all, I'm convinced some of y'all just wake up like, what am I gonna complain about on Twitter today? Off the perk they are. Right? Who said that? Jokes aside, that's totally fine. The way you feel about media is entirely subjective. You can just not like something. But to use "it's not like the original" as some sort of be-all end-all criticism for a show that was never intending to be is weird. Now, I'm gonna be the first to say it. Anime does not have a stellar track record when it comes to live-action adaptations. I am still very much of the mindset that the live-action Death Note is one of the worst adaptations ever made, because it's not a Death Note movie, but that's an entirely different topic for another day. At least with The Last Airbender, there was like an attempt to make it like Avatar. It wasn't a good one, but like it was an attempt nonetheless. With that being said, this show is a lot prettier than people give it credit for. So if the visuals aren't the issue, then it's gotta be. Like I said earlier, the atmosphere between these two are very different. But there is something really interesting about this show that I feel like a lot of people haven't pointed out yet. The character interactions here are, and because of the longer episode runtimes, they're able to set up plot threads and story elements episodes prior rather than in the episodes themselves. Some of them could benefit from having more time in the oven, I won't lie, but when it works, it works. I think LeFou having a PTSD breakdown for dogs rather than just having a meltdown over a cat works better because it provides a justification for allowing Ayn to come with them on adventures. Side note, while I get to talk about Ayn, why did they ever assign Ed and Ayn to do anything in the original show? These niggas like, go down and get some food, bro. Like she don't even wear shoes. I don't know about y'all, but like, come on now. Before y'all ask, the episode parodying blaxploitation films of the 80s is pretty funny. An incompetent cop and a black woman being arrested on fallacious charges. What is this, real life?
Oh my goodness!
But I digress. They do this thing where they set up general conflicts and plot points without having them take over the plot. In the first episode, they introduce you to Lieutenant Chalmers, and off the rip, they show that him and Jet have beef. And they say this.
There's a bounty coming up. It's not on the wire yet. Some asshole shot up a bar on TJ.
Yeah? Why are you giving it to me?
Hey, personally, I wouldn't cross the street to piss on you if you're on fire, but your ex-wife asked me to throw you a bone every now and again, so...
Well, you were throwing her your own bone, I bet.
This shows us that Jet and his wife are no longer together, and Chalmers is somewhere in the middle of it. It also shows that while there's animosity between them, there's still cooperation. They also share this little throwaway line.
You wouldn't believe how much a kid's doll cost.
And a few episodes later, they're trying to track one down for Pro's daughter.
How much?
35. Hey.
For a goddamn piece of molded plastic?
I'm trying to stay away from spoilers as much as possible, but long story short, this is the same episode they meet Ayn. When they first meet Ayn, for a quick second they show his name tag and it's spelled like this. If you're paying attention, you'll see his name isn't E-I-N, it's E-1-N. It's a code. So like I said earlier, when the clown has his panic attack over seeing a dog that looks like Ein, he freaks out because Ein is one of many dogs they were using for experimentation in the same place they were doing it on him. The show is full of slick little things like that. There's this nasty callback in episodes
4 and 7.
Built the ship's tracker. How'd you even find it?
You disabled a tracker, not all the trackers. Spike's real protective of his shit.
How did you find me?
You think I put only one tracker on you?
A place where it's noticeably different between this and the original is that there's like a main antagonist now. They have the vicious censored episodes in the original, but with the episodes being episodic adventures for the most part, you know that the only way Vicious will pose a threat to Spike is if Spike seeks him out. They do the opposite here. Both Vicious and Julia play active roles in the story. Mind you, I think they're the characters portrayed the most differently. Vicious in the original is this force of nature that whenever he's in the episode, you know Spike has to confront him. He's the final demon on his back, but the both of them know their conflict will only end when they're both dead.
Then why are you still alive?
Vicious in the Netflix show gets cocked for the entire first half of the show, but bear with me. That's important. Everyone in the syndicate believes Spike is dead. When his past begins to haunt him is when he sends a message: leave me alone. Vicious actually doesn't seek to bother Spike after that. They both decide to focus on their own paths. He's become complicit. He's planning on getting higher and higher in the syndicate until he runs it. He's following orders, killing, and moving on. With Spike out of the way, to him, he has nothing to worry about. Fearless is gone. The problem is both of their paths clash because of Julia. He sucks up, he gets stepped on, he doesn't step out of line, he becomes more and more fed up and depraved as the season progresses, culminating in
I beg to differ, Dad.
They add this additional depth to his character when they show that the syndicate boss who conditioned them since their childhood is actually his dad. It doesn't mean anything when it's first revealed, but there's an episode around the end of the season where they show just how that influenced his change from this to this. Julia is like the newest character, I'd say. She plays a way more significant role in the show than in the original, and I gotta say, I like it.
Is this nigga serious?
Yeah. They show that Spike was in love with Julia early on, so as it progresses, when you find out she and Vicious are married, it gives their dynamic an additional layer. To Spike, Julia is the love of his life, his symbol and reason for wanting to leave the syndicate. To Vicious, Julia is a symbol of his control not only for Spike's life, but his own as well. And to Julia, they're both stepping stones for her to succeed power and take control of the syndicate. While I actually do believe that she loves Spike and even Vicious, they show from the get-go that she's always been ambitious. She indirectly joins the syndicate as a singer in one of their clubs. Both Fearless and Vicious look at her and are infatuated, but for entirely different reasons. She's freedom to Spike. She's control to Vicious, and he ultimately gets his hands on her first. As Vicious progresses through the ranks, they make it a point to show that while she begins to grow resentful of him and his malicious disregard for human lives, she accepts it nonetheless, albeit slightly out of fear, but more so because she enjoys the power. So when the season finale comes and they exchange this line,
I convinced myself you couldn't have known. Because what kind of a man stays with a woman who slept with his best friend? Oh, but of course you knew. And you stayed. Because you are no man at all.
I am gonna hurt you, Julia. In ways that haven't been invented yet. Until you beg me to kill you, and then I'm gonna hurt you some more. Though, you won't be alone. You'll have Fearless's head to keep you company.
it makes it hit a little harder. Contrast this to Julia from the original show, who in total has like an episode and a half of screen time, and one of them she dies in. But I digress. To quote the original Cowboy Bebop, I think this Julia is an angel from the other world. I think this Julia is a devil from paradise.
Some of y'all about to be real mad at me, but it must be said.
This show has great characters. I love what they did with each and every single character, and the cast did their jobs brilliantly. That's not to say there aren't flaws, far from it, but a lot of y'all saw Faye didn't have big titties and wet the bed, but I'll get to that. But first, this Spike is cool and collected. You never see him crack under pressure. He's a man who believes the only atonement he can get is with his death. This Spike is a light-hearted baddie. He's a man who's trying to run from his past. Ignore that it even happened.
That's your hostage?
Spike.
Was she like 80? I mean, she looks like she's led a very full, rich life, haven't you, ma'am?
Spike!
I mean, you got kids, right? You're ready to go.
Whereas this Spike constantly throws caution to the wind, seeking for his inevitable fate, this Spike is trying to live the life he never had. So when his past comes to find him, we begin to see the overlap.
But let's take a pin in Spike for now, because
It really means a lot to her that you're here.
I'd fight the world to make sure I showed up.
Mustafa Shakir ached. I'm not talking like, oh, he sounds like the voice actor. Nah, he ran these streets. Early on, they show a major difference with his character. He has a daughter. They foreshadow why he's on the Bebop, as well as why he only has one arm in the same conversation. It's brilliant.
Jimmy has a birthday coming up, and you wouldn't believe how much a kid's doll cost.
Oh, yeah?
Be nice to be out of the red for once.
All the shit you've been through, you're overdue for some good luck. Am I right?
That's right, smart guy.
That sounded like you. Admit it. Come on.
Goddamn thing.
They can't grow you a new arm, you know.
You know, sometimes when you lose something, there's just no getting it back.
Any more fortune cookies you want to crack open, or can we eat now?
You work at being an asshole?
No, actually, it comes naturally. Unlike your arm.
Eat your damn peppers.
Yeah.
It can't be understated how clever this opening is because it establishes several things. Jet is mature and of the mindset that when you make a mistake, you live with your scars. It establishes that he has a daughter who he takes an active parental role with. It shows that they're low on money because of the simplicity of their meals, and it establishes he and Spike's relationship. They've been together for 2 years. They rag on each other, crack jokes, share stories. They're like brothers. His daughter is pivotal to his grounding as a character. They show from the get-go that through all of the BS, she's the force that keeps his wheels turning. He lives for her. He loves her. Spike can't run from his past, but Jet can't run to his. They also make it a point to show that he's the most emotionally smart one of the group. When Spike goes planetside to confront Vicious for the first time, he tells him, "I'm gonna go get noodles." Jet is apprehensive because that excuse doesn't make any sense. He lets him go nonetheless. In a beta show, this would be where the character holds in a lie and they never address the blatant idiocy of the person not catching on ever, but they make it a point to show that Jet realizes he's lying to him, but lets him go because he trusts him. There's this episode where Spike is forced to live in this alternate reality Groundhog Day scenario, which is actually a reference to the anime, and he's forced to confront his past. He almost dies while in it, but like, you know, they say thanks to the Powerpuff Girls and all that. Immediately in the next episode, Jet asks Spike, "So what did you see in the machine?" To which Spike tries to pretend as though it wasn't anything important, or that he forgot. Jet knows that that's obviously not the case because it goes against the design of the machine. When he confronts him, he gives Spike a final chance to admit what he's been hiding.
I knew who you used to be.
Do you?
A man with your skills only comes from one place. Where'd you serve? Shoulder of Orion? Titan? Ten Houses Gate? Look, I get it. You're on some kind of special ops team. There's no shame in that. I know how a man's deeds can follow him around and haunt him.
I don't want to talk about it.
His theory is that Spike is a soldier with post-traumatic stress disorder. Spike is silent, but Jet takes it as reluctance. Jet in the anime just be like, "Hey yo, Spike, you good?" No.
I'm a fault with.
Bro. The reason he does this is because he sees the best in people. He's able to see them for more than the face they show. That's why he lets Faye stay on the ship. Faye just sort of pulls up in the original, and they don't even like her like that. Even when Sis went missing, they were just like, she'll be back. She gotta eat, right? The both of them are annoyed by her at first, but he warms up to her almost immediately. Even when they mess up, he's more like an annoyed dad. Which is really interesting because Jet Black is the unluckiest character in this show. He was one of the most respected police officers on the force, only to be betrayed by someone he trusted, and then put behind bars for 5 years, missing out on the entire first half of his daughter's life. His wife got remarried to one of his co-workers, and because he can't go back to the force, he's stuck having to collect bounties in space as a cowboy. He was betrayed by the force. He was betrayed by his wife. And then when he's finally at a point where he can see things beginning to come up, he's betrayed by his brother. All he's ever done was the right thing, and all he sees for it is heartbreak. Spike isn't quick to trust, and Jet is too trusting. He's a legitimately good man who's in the situation he is because people screwed him over. That's why when Faye lies to them about her past, it hits him so hard. That's why when Spike lied to him, it breaks his heart. If you enter this ship, it means he trusts you. If you live on this ship, it means your family.
Which leads to phase 2.
Unknown to our killer, Faye's flying down in a red-tailed thriller. And while he's distracted staring at Spike, Faye fires flashbangers in a dazzling first strike.
Paving the way for phase 3.
What's with all the rhyming?
But it helps to retain the plan. I saw it in an old Lee Marvin picture. Paving the way for phase 3.
When
Jet flies the Bebop into the atmosphere and fires a grapnel like a man with no fear. Puts the bad man inside of a sinkhole and puts in some gas
to finish our big goal.
I feel like we need more phases to get the meter going.
I like the meter just fine, smart guy. I didn't come up with this plan to fail or to lose either one of you. So I want to hear it again with feeling.
Phase 1.
It cannot be overstated how good Mustafa Shakir was in this role. He's funny, he's emotional, and he feels like the most grounded member of the Bebop. I could honestly talk about this portrayal of Jet for hours, but then I'd never get to talk about
the hell you think you're doing?
Yeah, I just came here to place a bet.
Spike is a little weird here. He's different than his anime counterpart for sure, but in a weird way, I'd say he's the most accurate. I mentioned it earlier, but whereas this Spike chooses to die with his demons, this Spike chooses to live with them. They show early on that he clearly has some form of traumatic past, and like I said in the Jet portion, he doesn't really talk about it. When he went down to get noodles, what he actually did was reveal to one of his old syndicate friends that he was alive. Unbeknownst to Jet, while he was getting nay-nayed on, Spike was in the middle of fighting an entirely unrelated assassin who was hired by the syndicate to kill him after he was recognized in the last episode. This is the episode when he delivered that leave me alone message I mentioned earlier. His friend actually asked him, "Does your partner know who you were?"
Dying didn't teach you that lying is no way to be.
You don't know him. He wouldn't understand.
And you ain't gonna give him a chance.
He and Vicious used to be friends, more than that even. To the people watching who have never seen Cowboy Bebop, Vicious is both a name and a title. They gave it to him. Likewise, Spike is a name he chose for himself when he left. His name is
Fearless.
Fearless is dead. I go by Spike Spiegel these days.
I mentioned the episode where Spike is in the machine, and I think it has one of the best A-plots in the entire show. Spike is in the machine that lets him live in his subconscious. In it, he sees a world where after all these years, Julia finds him. She warns him that Vicious is coming to find them. Spike fights her. "Come with me. I can't. We can be free. They will never stop looking for us. That doesn't matter. You left me." And then he dies. But he can't leave that unresolved. He wakes up again and again trying to save her, and he never wins. Unbeknownst to him, that inability to quit is the only thing keeping him alive.
The AI can get him to give up his emotional tether. Then it'll devour his consciousness.
And then what?
If that happens, he's game over.
Regardless of how far he runs, he will have to confront his past. Despite that, after all this time, after all this waiting, after all this regret, he finds her. He risks his life time and time again for the woman he wronged, and he fails each time. The AI will do whatever it can to make sure he quits, but he can't. He won't. The machine is his subconscious. It can't tell him information he doesn't already know. In both a literal and metaphorical sense, he has to confront his own insecurities. Meanwhile, Jet finds out that Spike is declining and fast. If they don't get him out of the machine soon, he's gonna die.
Jesus, you okay?
You can't shut it down from here. You're gonna have to cut the power from the mainframe.
Where's the mainframe?
Earth.
Fucking Earth.
He and Faye have to rush to Earth to destroy the machine's database in order to save Spike. When they get there, it's guarded by this impenetrable material. They have to get to the mainframe in order to save Spike, and in order to get to the mainframe, they have to break down this wall. Jet is emotionally driven. His friend is gonna die. He uses the gun until it runs out of bullets. When that doesn't work, he slams it against the wall until it breaks. Faye is clever. She uses the railgun she bought at the beginning of the episode to find a way in. All the while, we cut back and forth to Spike's conversation with Julia.
It's okay. We're gonna get through this. Trust me.
Trust you? Look at where we are. When I said I didn't feel safe, I wasn't talking about Vicious. I was talking about you.
Julie, that's not...
It's the truth. You can change your name, Spike, but you can't change who you are. My husband may do bad things, but you are the psychopath.
Who are you kidding? Everything you touch dies. Damn it. Shoot.
There's gotta be something around here.
So for once in your life, do something right.
Hey, will this work?
And just let me go.
Okay. I'll go.
After everything is said and done, Spike gets a quiet moment to himself. In but 2 brief shots, they perfectly capture this internal conflict. While his friends are celebrating, he's suffering. All these years later, and his ghosts choose now to haunt him. When everything is said and done, she tells him to let her go. And I might be reading too much into it, but I think that this is symbolic for the wall Spike has put up, preventing his friends from getting too close. Only when those walls are broken down and destroyed will he ever truly be free. And niggas say the show not subtle, bro. Come on. There's this really cool subversion where most of Spike's issues aren't caused by his actions. They're a direct result of his inaction. He loses Julia by faking his death. He never went back for her. He loses his humanity. He never stood up to Vicious. He loses his best friend because he couldn't tell him the truth. People get hurt because of Spike. Spike gets hurt because of Spike. It's especially sad because as the audience we see how happy he can be away from this life. They gain this found family with one another, so to see him lose it, man. I'm being legit when I tell you I tried to watch this show with the most critical, like analytical YouTube snarky CinemaSins type, they made a joke that I didn't find funny, but I couldn't do it. Every time I had a complaint about something and say like episode 1 or even episode 2, they would address it later on. And it's kind of this weird subversion where it leads me to believe that a lot of those choices were intentional. And if not that, then they were definitely privy to it and willing to improve. This was meant to be part 1 of a much longer story. They were sowing their seeds here, and they did that well. Even the things I saw most people bashing the show for, I didn't find nearly as annoying as they were making it out to be. But like, what were they saying again? I feel like I'm forgetting someone.
Boy, hurry it up, I got places to be.
Sorry.
Let's kick the beat. It's your turn.
Faye was the most controversial character in the show by a minute mile. A lot of people didn't like her portrayal. A lot of people didn't like the actress. A lot of people didn't like... We'll get to those.
But first,
Faye Valentine was cryogenically frozen in her early 20s. This is actually common in their world. The problem is she'd been frozen for 80 some years, which isn't common in their world. She's an amnesiac who's only been awake for 2 years.
Hello, my name is Faye Valentine, which, if you're asking, isn't my real name. It's the fake one you gave me.
Sorry, do I know you?
No, but, I know you, Mark. Friendless, pasty, opera-loving virgin?
I'm not a... I'm sorry, what exactly is this about?
When she first opened her eyes, she meets a woman who claims to be her mother. Over time, she learns that that was a lie. This woman used that as an emotional crux to manipulate Faye into committing crimes for her. I like that she doesn't join the group immediately here. She meets Spike in episode 1, gets the lid, screws them over, saves them, then dips. It's only when she needs help getting info on her past that she finds them. It showcases her social ineptitude and strangeness. She goes to these guys who she'd only met once because those are the only people she knows that don't hate her. But I'm sure you've seen the screenshots. Welcome to the ouch, mother. That's nutballs. All of that. Faye speaks kinda great. She's always making these comments under her breath. She constantly swears, makes up words, and always feels the need to be in the conversation. I've seen a lot of people saying that they think that she's just like the typical neurotic sitcom girl. I don't think that that's the case here. Bear with me for a second. From the jump, they show that Faye is a weirdo. When she meets the other two, they're both like, bro, Spike, why'd you bring her? When she pulls up, they just like start clowning on her.
She remind you of somebody?
The cosmonaut.
Thank you. Honking on Bobo.
Hell of a night, huh?
Technically morning.
What?
Nothing. How about you take us to the Murdochs?
Yeah, I'm tracking him now, Skip.
She's very self-serving. When he first meets her, she's got a gun to Spike's head. She thinks she got the juice. She kind of got the juice, but she don't got like that kind of juice. A lot of people found her weird speech patterns to be annoying, and I get that, especially at first. Both my mom and I were like, bro, why does she feel the need to always make a comment? That was until I realized Faye doesn't talk like someone who sounds cool. I don't think that was the writer's intention. She talks like someone who wants people to think she sounds cool. The more the show progressed, the more things started to unravel, the more the characters developed, and the more was revealed. Faye has spent the last 2 years essentially relearning every lesson she's ever been taught. But this is sort of what I was talking about when I said that a lot of the choices I feel were intentional because of the way they reference it. You'll notice that characters in the show will reference it as well. Dude, she talks weird.
Kind of weird, she's never seen a dog before, right?
Yeah, right?
They're always saying things like that, showing that Faye is an outlier. It's not like they were just writing for writing's sake and we're like, oh, ha ha ha, nutballs. Like, I saw niggas on Insta doing this to Ed too, but like, I'm sorry to be the one to say this. They were always like this. This youngin is literally like 1-to-1 perfect radical Edward casting. You cannot convince me otherwise. And I was mad geeking when they pulled up. Faye in the original was always annoying. Spike and Jet never really even liked her like that. They used to just be bringing niggas on that ship and chilling, bro. They're both obnoxious, abrasive, strong-willed, and willing to tell it to you like it is. A difference off the top I can think of is this Faye gets what she wants via manipulation. This Faye gets what she wants by throwing hands. One thing they do share is their inability to allow others in. When we next hear, she's confronting a guy named Mark Manley. This is the guy that unfroze her from cryostasis early so he could rob her. She tracks him down so that she could grill him for some information on a person who knows about her past. Stuff hits the fan, some eco-terrorists pull through and kidnap Mark, and steal Faye's ship. Pissed off, she looks for the only people she knows with a fast ship and a relationship where they won't just shoot her in the face. Spike and Jet. They help her, but not without their reservations. I mentioned it earlier, but Spike doesn't trust her at all. And for good reason. He knows her type, disingenuous and arrogant. He's proven right because she runs off with his ship and Ein betraying them. They manage to track her down, and even after that, Jet cauterizes her wound.
Dead ringer for the cosmonaut just then, am I right?
Yes. In the eyebrows, huh?
In the eyebrows. Yes!
It's the eyebrows!
You okay, dickholes?
They find out that stakes are higher than just a bounty and a lot of lives are at stake. They have to depend on each other to stop it from happening. Faye gets herself locked into a situation where she can intercept her mom and get her identikit, or she can save Spike and Jet. She saves them, and as a result, sacrifices herself. She chose the lives of men she knew were good over her own. Keep in mind, she would have died not even knowing who she even was. Lucky for her, for the first time in her life, doing the right thing paid off.
I was starting to think you might not wake up.
We followed the smoke trail. Yeah, you're lucky to be alive.
My ship?
Oh, that's toast. Hope there wasn't anything valuable on it.
No, nothing. Just my entire life.
You know what's cool about losing your life? You get to build a new one. We're going for drinks when he gets back. New guy buys the first round.
Spike?
Yep.
Okay. Just for real. Who is the cosmonaut?
Welcome to the Bebop.
If you watch the anime, you already know who Whitney is, but they're very different here. This is Whitney Haggis Matsumoto, aka
Faye's mom.
Yeah, so she claims.
I always thought you were hatched in a madman's lab.
Whitney isn't actually Faye's mom. She's a con artist. She wakes people up from cryostasis, sells them a dream, then steals their belongings. When we first meet Faye's mom, they show that she's like kind of like an anus, bro. Like nasty and gross. But we need it anyways. And sometimes it feels a little good.
What did he say?
Where was I going with this? She's a liar through and through. Because of Faye's sacrifice earlier on, we as the audience already know her mother isn't actually her mom. Like this guy was to Faye in the original, Faye's mom was the first person she met coming out of cryosleep. They also make it a point to show that she goes by like a million aliases. This implies that Faye might not even know her real name, which further solidifies her inability to let others in. Whitney holds Faye's identikit over her head, using it as leverage to keep her from cutting ties. Faye wants the identikit because it has information on her past that she doesn't have. The person holding her back in this instance is the person who's supposed to care about her the most, a mother's love. Whitney only posed as her mother with the intent of scamming her out of her money, which she successfully does. She keeps Faye's identikit as leverage should she ever need her help to pull off a con. When Faye loses her and dedicates making as much money as possible so she can eventually get more info on her past, she is fundamentally alone. She's the only person she talks to. She's the only person she interacts with. She's the only person she can trust out there in the deep, cold, depressing void of space. When the episode comes and she actually gets her identikit back for her mom, it comes in the form of a VHS tape. They pop it in, and on it is a young Faye. Before she went missing, before she was frozen, when she was kind and sweet and the world made sense. This is what she lost, and she doesn't know why. I don't have a family. But she does. She wouldn't have found the identikit on her own. She couldn't have found her identikit on her own. Through the ability to accept others, she's made friends who have not only helped her to get the information she's wanted her whole life, but friends who are happy they can be there to share that moment.
I got it. How was it? Did I do okay?
You were beautiful, sweetheart.
Thanks, Mom.
And then she hears the famous words. The next episode has this scene that I unironically think is one of the best scenes in Cowboy Bebop history, including the original. It's just them bowling. They go bowling, they suck, but that's not special. What's special is that it's the first time we see all three of these guys just hanging out. They're laughing, making jokes, having a good time.
Jet claims it is relaxing.
Why are we here?
Because it's family time. And during family time, we do fun things together. Like bowl.
And when they leave, they give Faye a birthday cake.
What is happening?
Well, after recent events, we wanted to do something special for you.
Guys, I don't even know when my birthday is.
Yeah, that's why we decided to make today your new birthday.
Wow. You two are the sweetest dickheads a girl could ever want. Just don't sing. Seriously.
Of course not.
No, we'd never.
Happy birthday to you.
Typical.
So let's make today your birthday. It's legitimately sweet and one of the biggest highlights of the show. She can let her guard down. She can be caring. She can be loved. She hasn't found some people who will sell her soul for 62 cents like Mr. Krabs. She hasn't found some temporary roommates. She's found people who care about her. She's found her family. I won't lie to you guys. I think this show is amazing. This is one of my favorite TV shows in a long while. It was disheartening to see all these people type their little remarks on Twitter and join, because in a lot of these instances, it's pretty obvious they never watched a single episode or even tried to judge it as its own work. The show is just fun. It's intentional in all its humor, and the dramatic moments still land. The editors, camera people, directors, actors, composers, they literally brought the seatbelts back to make new songs for the show. There's this tangible love for the source material while still managing to be its own thing, and it's sad seeing so many people just didn't watch it because Netflix bad, live action bad. Watch the Lost Session trailer on YouTube. If you make it through that whole thing without grinning, then I don't know what to tell you, bro. You're just weird. When they first announced that the show was canceled, it upset me. There's so many facets and plot lines that I was excited to see them get to. And for me, as well as the many others who got enjoyment from this show, it's disheartening. We got screwed over because a very vocal group of people who had their minds made up before the show even released. I could already imagine seeing this version of Jet picking up a surrogate father role to Radical Edward. Or like Miles and Andy. You can't tell me those two wouldn't be effing jokes, dog. Shen and Lin, even the dynamic setup in the show. Julia's ascent to power, the cliffhanger ending, Jet and Spike's now broken relationship, Jet's broken relationship with his daughter, Faye going to find out more information about her past, Julia's betrayal to Vicious. They ended with so many open doors that I was excited to see them take. I was mad excited when they showed Ed at the end. I understand where a lot of the issues come in, and some of it is valid criticism. And once again, if you don't like it, that's fine. But I still think this show is good. It's special. I like these guys for an entirely different set of reasons than I like these guys. The story is fun, the visuals are amazing, and the characters are awesome. There's a petition to get this show renewed for season 2, and at the time of writing this video, it's almost at its goal of 150,000 signatures. If there are this many people who resonated with this show, can you really call it bad? I think one of the worst parts about this show being cancelled is that it really feels like they had gotten into their groove by the end of it. Since nobody else talks about it, let's be honest here, the first season of a show is always the most boring. That doesn't mean it's bad, it's just usually where the staff and crew are trying to learn what works and what doesn't. The Office season 1, nowhere near as funny as the show gets. They literally changed Michael Scott's entire character. Yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender season 1 is good, but compared to seasons 2 and 3, like, come on. Even in Breaking Bad, they were planning on killing Jesse Pinkman in season 1. My point being that we'll never get to see this show have the bugs ironed out. If I like the show now, imagine them getting to their best. Maybe the show being cancelled is a good thing, because if it does get renewed for a second season, then they could do a time skip. This is a certified bro moment. I like time skips. Remember when The Amazing Spider-Man was considered the objective worst Spider-Man, and now No Way Home's come out and everyone's praising those movies and everyone's praising Andrew Garfield's portrayal of Peter Parker and Spider-Man? First off, fake love. The same goes for shows like Clone High and Invader Zim. Now, I'm not from the future, but give it a couple years. Mark my words, bookmark this video. This show's gonna be the next Amazing Spider-Man. Seeing the cast and crew react to the cancellation has been so depressing. These guys were very clearly passionate about this show, and it looks like they were having a lot of fun, and rightfully so. Like Alex Hassel, Elena Satin, Daniela Pineda, Mustafa Shakir. I mean, that's John Cho. You guys ever watch Searchin'? Harold and Kumar? Neil Patrick Harris? Neil Patrick Harris?
Let me be clear. There is nothing on the planet that I love more than a hot new pussy.
Oops! But regardless how you may feel about it, I think this show was something special. And even if we don't get another season, it was fun while it lasted. I gotta agree with the man. See ya, Space Cowboy. this video took absolutely forever to make. I'm a little conflicted because a part of me is pretty sad that the video is done because I spent so long on it. This was actually going to be like 15 minutes long, I swear. But the longer I watched it and the more footage I went through, I just kept getting this deeper appreciation for this show. And it's a little bittersweet that it just won't be a part of my life anymore. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it. And if you want to see more, don't forget to press subscribe. It's been a wild ride, folks, and I'm glad that I could share it with you.